Slow Show 9 here, and today we are going to do a certain game console. In fact, this is a console that I'm unveiling. It's a retro game console that I'm unveiling today. Probably one of the greatest 5th generation gaming consoles. And that gaming console is... I'm going to turn that down one more notch. And if you guys want to know what kind of song this is before I do it, this is Green Hill Zone, Sonic the Hedgehog, that is made by the 1UPs. Yes, I'm also going to put them in the description as well, because it's their song. Today we're going to unveil the Sega Saturn. Oh yes, you gotta love the Sega Saturn. Such a great gaming console. This console was released in 1994 in Japan and 95 everywhere else. That's including the US, Australia, Europe, and everywhere else, basically, besides Japan. This console was not very successful in North America nor Europe, but it was extremely successful in Japan. I think in North America, I believe it only sold 2 million. In Japan, it sold like 6.8 million. Out of 9.5 million, that's like 80,000 units that was sold everywhere else between Europe and Australia and stuff. That's not that many units sold. But in the aspect, this is a great gaming console. I mean, this thing is built fantastically. Everything about it is amazing. Everything that you would think of a Sega console comes from this. Not just this, but also the Genesis. But it also comes from this when it comes to 2D games, 2D platformers, 2D fighters, and overhead isometric RPGs. And this console is a 2D powerhouse. Literally. If I was to show you some gameplay footage, or copy and paste a video on YouTube, I'll also put the person's name in there, and show you the difference between the two, I can tell you that 2D games work on this one better. For example, Sonic 3 Blast, even though we all know the game in general sucks like ass, it looks so much better on this than it does the Genesis. Literally, you see more textures, more graphical content, everything. All brought up on this. Let's go and right here, the button that I have right here, this is the power button. This right here is the open button. Opens the CD drive. And this right here is the reset button. Yes, back here, you're probably thinking like, what the hell is this? Why does it have a cartridge support? Hold on, I'll let you guess first. Some people will say it was a Genesis port. It was not. It was actually a memory card unit. The Sega Saturn did not have that much memory on it. In fact, it only has 461 blocks. You can go get a memory card, like with the Action Replay, that has like 15,000 blocks on it. It's a lot of memory. Plus 461 blocks, that's like 20,000 blocks right there of memory. That's a lot of memory. So you could use that. Also, the Action Replay, you could also play Japanese games on this. So this was probably one of the best gaming consoles to actually play Japanese games on, like that. So one of the best gaming consoles to actually play Japanese games. And let me tell you, Japanese games are more affordable on this console than the US counterparts. Let me give you a good example. Sonic Jam, that was released on this console, the North American version is like $75. The Japanese version is like $15. So it is extremely expensive for North American titles than Japanese titles. And that's kind of cool. Alright, so on the side right here we have air vents. The front we have 2 controller ports, which is really cool. We have more air vents, and on the back we have an AV out, AC adapter, and right here people thinking, yes, Sega Saturn could go online. They're probably thinking like, what the fuck? Yes, there was a cartridge that could go by right in here, in the cartridge slot, where you could actually play online. And one of the main titles that everybody still plays to this day, but can't play online, is Saturn Bomberman, which I'll get into that game later. Even though I don't have it, I'll get into it later about this console. But this game could play all that. And back here, I think this is really neat about the console. Give me 1 second. You have a little battery right here. Well, except my battery doesn't work anymore, so I can't really save games on this. And then there's pins back there. There are pins in that little hole. This console could play video CDs, which means that is movie on CD discs. That's pretty fucking amazing. One of the main feature ones is Back to the Future, and as great as that movie is, it could play it on this. Very amazing. To answer some of these questions before I get into the next part of this, there's no backwards compatibility with this console, which I still think they should have made. And also with the cartridge slot back here, it's actually a direct main port to the main board, which is really cool. And now that we unveiled the console, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to discuss more about it. This console has 2 processors in it, main processors, which all the processors are in it equal out to like 8. Probably thinking like, how in the fuck can that hold that? Let me explain. Back in 93, 94, Sega of North America was having fun, but since Super Nintendo was releasing these good-ass games like Donkey Kong Country and Super Metroid and games like that, Sega thought, you know, we can compete with that. Let me bring out the Sega CD attachment. That really caught on just a little bit, but it only sold like 2 million, so it caught on a little bit. Even though the games really sucked on it, it really caught on. And then you have, about a year later, they released the 32X, which actually had way more better games than this console. About a year later, maybe 2 years, I'm not entirely sure. I have to look it up. And the main thing about this console is, though, when Sega Japan discontinued the Genesis, they released this. And North America was going to release it in 95. So they spent like $1 million ad campaign on this in North America. And they put so much support in Japan. But with this console, though, Sega Japan said, Sega of America had to discontinue the 32X. We're not gonna make games for 2 platforms. Technically, they were making it for 3 platforms. We're not making games for 2 platforms, so drop the 32X. Eventually, about a couple months later, or right before they even dropped, or right before they sold the Sega Saturn, they dropped the 32X, which was a horrible thing. You know, it only sold like 700-something thousand units. You know, it was a great little add-on, but it still required its own power, which really sucked. The only one on the Sega Genesis that really didn't was the power base converter, which was really cool, but too bad it can only work on the first generation model. And this is how this launched. This console had possibly one of the craziest launches ever. When it comes to best launch ever, that's the Dreamcast for you. But when it comes to one of the craziest and most horrible ones, it's this one. Technically, they released it on E3 and saying that consoles are in stores now instead of their prior release date. So that really pissed off fucking developers and retail stores. And even some retail stores didn't even sell the console up till that point of that release date that they previously said. So that really pissed Sega off. But really it pissed Sega off even more because they wanted to release the console before the PlayStation would come out. In reality, the PlayStation was not more powerful than this. The most powerful console of the 5th generation was the N64. I'm surprised how that actually is possible with cartridges versus CDs. But then again, you could actually see that. This console, they released only first-party titles. And I will literally get into the first-party titles soon, because I have 2 of them right here. 2 of the actual, literally, launch titles with the console, which I will get into in a minute. Um, but with the console though, they released like 6 launch titles. They released it, I think, with Bug, Clockwork Knight, some soccer game. I believe it was a football game, and they released 2 launch titles. First one being Daytona USA, which was a great racing arcade game. This is the original one. Now, they released a Championship Edition, which actually is a little bit better and also has multiplayer. This one does not. And the second major title that they released, which I believe is the best-selling one, maybe not 2, I have to check back on it, is Virtual Fighter, but this is the remix. This is the better one than the original. This one was actually really good. I actually still play it. It's actually really fun. These are actually 2 launch titles that actually are with the Sega Saturn, or I don't know if they were both bundled with it or not. They literally released the Sega Saturn like a month, or was it? I think it was a month, 4 weeks, or maybe 4 months, for something, not 4 years. It was like either like 4 months, 4 weeks, or something like that. Not 4 days, but it was like probably like 4 weeks or 4 months prior to the PlayStation launch. They only sold 80,000 units within that amount, so they were literally screwed when the time comes for the PlayStation. PlayStation sold 100,000 units on its first day with pre-orders. So this console, I believe, only had like 70-something thousand pre-orders, and it sold an extra 10,000 units within those I think it was like 4 weeks, 4 months. I'm not sure, but with this console, it did horribly on its launch day. It was only sold for so much. And then the fact was, it had 8 processors, so nobody could actually use the second processor. And second of all, the price was extremely hefty. It was $400. The Sony PlayStation was $300, and the N64 was $249. I will say the best for Nintendo, I will say, when it comes to launch price, is $249 or under. When it comes to Sony, it's $300 to $400, and when it comes to Sega, I say it's like $190 and up, but to like $300. But $400 was just so much that this console could handle, and that's because, one, something that people don't know about this, the actual CD drive is built so damn well. They literally built the CD drive so fucking well. Literally, I'm not even joking about that. They literally built this CD drive so damn well. Better than they did with the Dreamcast. And Dreamcast lasers actually burn out very often, a few times. The Saturn ones don't. So that is really good about that it actually can last. Also, this is the first model Saturn, and it came with the first controller. Now let me show you this first controller, and I really don't like this one too much, but I like the grip handles on it. This is the Sega Saturn Model 1 controller pad. It's okay. I like its like little D-pad so you can't really slide your fingers off really, and I do like the handles. I like the start button, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. So really I had the exact same layout as the Genesis, except 2 main features on it. It had an L and an R button on it, which were really, really cool at the time and really good at the time. Oh, sorry, put this over there too. And since I've already revealed this, it's easy to wrap up to anyways, so, well, in a way it is. Too bad these controllers do not feature rumble support. One of the other things I wanted to show you before I actually get into some other stuff is I actually want to get you into the AC adapter, or plug. This plug right here is the exact same plug as the Sega Dreamcast. So you literally could use the exact same plug for the Dreamcast. That's a big novelty back then. Nintendo used that for their AC power, and Sony used it for their AC and AV power. There was a Model 2 that released in '96. This one has oval buttons. The Model 2 has circular buttons. And some of you guys don't know about this. This is the Model 2 controller. This is actually the exact same controller as the Model 1 in Japanese. That's pretty cool. And I kind of like this. This is like the 6-button controller on the Genesis. But it's really cool. I really like it. It's more stylized. Now check at the top of these. They have forward line, and then backward line. This could actually play CDs. So and CDGs. So that was really cool back then. In fact, that was actually very awesome. In 1997 and 98, 97 was really the last time you saw EA make games for the Saturn. Or for any Sega platform, really. Because Sega was really hemorrhaging money when it comes to the Saturn. For one, here's, well, not one main reason, but here's 3 main reasons. One, sorry to Sega, I love them. They were ran by fucking idiots. 2, they have ideas. They just want to put out there. They have great ideas, but it's not good when it goes on paper. I mean, it's good when it goes on paper, but not good when it comes out. Sorry. 3, their fucking prices suck. With the Dreamcast, their price was fucking amazing, and with the Genesis was fucking amazing. Genesis sold so fucking well in the United States, but didn't fare well in Japan. But the Saturn fared well in Japan, but did not the North America. So I only have 4 games for the system right now, and Madden 97 and NASCAR 98. So these are 2 great little sports games. Sega really was hemorrhaging money completely when it comes towards the Sega Saturn, not Genesis. They literally had to lay off probably about 30% of their workforce because of it, and that sucked. And that wasn't the console's fault. That wasn't the developer's fault. That was the key people who were running Sega, who did not know what to do at that time. Here's what I can tell you what they did do and what they should have done to begin with. First of all, when the PlayStation released, when it had a price tag of $300, it dropped to $100, sold at $200. Sega was like, oh yeah, we can do that too. They dropped their console down to $200 when they dropped it down. That's when Sega actually sold 1 million units in North America then. Up to like, I think it was like 1 point something million, like 1.1 million consoles, just in the United States, just because of that. When they did that in Japan, Japan sold like, I think it was like 2-3 million right off of that, which was really good. That was fucking fantastic. And Sega really couldn't do much with the Saturn. But more and more great titles came out for the system. But eventually, Sega also got backfired on something, and that something really bit them in the ass. And they actually recovered that with the Dreamcast. There's a couple of reasons why the Sega Saturn failed. One, it could not meet demand. For no reason. Could not develop much third-party support. Dreamcast had more third-party support than anything. I will say, just for my instance, of any Sega console, Dreamcast has had the most third-party support. You will see on the Dreamcast in North America, there are 262 titles released on the Dreamcast in North America. About 100 of those titles were made from Capcom. Literally. Like, they have games like Heavy Metal, Marvel vs. Capcom, Street Fighter, mostly fighting games, and hack and slash. Most of the titles in Resident Evil, most of the titles, there are about 100 titles that were released by Capcom on the Dreamcast, not Saturn. When it comes to games that were released on Saturn, most games you literally find on Saturn that were released by third-party companies was what was it? Work Dream. I can't remember the name of the RPG company. That was one of them. Sunsoft. Capcom was another major one. And then you also... Konami really didn't release that many games. And then you also had EA. There were like 4 major companies that released third-party titles. And there weren't even that many. As far as I know, when it comes to third-party titles, I know there is one third-party company that only released 6 titles on the Saturn. I forgot the name of it. I actually have to go back and look it up. I think it was Ubisoft. Yeah, because they released Rayman. I don't know if they released Rayman 2 on the console or not. I don't think they did. But, there were like 6 titles in North America that were released by Ubisoft. I believe so. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure about that. You would actually have to go back and look that up just to see. What else is there that I need to talk about? Yes. Speaking about what I said earlier about the Saturn Bomberman, there's something cool about that game. One, that game could go online. So what you did is you stuck a Saturn Bomberman cart in here, and you put it online. There you go. You got the disc in here. Here's something cool about this shit. You got multi-taps, right? Right here. You have the two controllers. You could have multi-taps. You could play with up to fucking 10 players with that fucking game. Locally. Not online. Online, I think it played to, I think it was like 12. But offline, you could play up to 10 people. That's 9 other friends that you have. Seriously, that is fucking amazing. It means you gotta have 2 multi-taps and 9 controllers and 9 friends. In one sitting. That is fucking cool as shit. And in fact, I absolutely really like that. First of all, I don't even know how much you would actually have to pay for all those controllers. Secondly, I don't know how much you would have to pay for just to get those people to come over. But the game is so expensive in North America. I believe it's like $100-something in North America. In Japan, it's probably like $30. That game really met high demand. Hudson Soft, I believe, only made probably like, I think it was like 1 million copies of it in North America. I think they made like 2 million, but they didn't sell all 2 million. But Hudson Soft is gone now, so it absorbed into Konami. Rest in peace, Hudson Soft. Made some of the best Mario Party games on the planet, as well as Bomberman games, period. The major other thing is, I believe only Hudson Soft only made like 4 or 5 titles for the system. That's just how much the system sucked. And that was just from the meat of demand. It's like the Wii U now. They actually have like Ubisoft, EA who pulled from it, Konami pulled from the console. So you have a lot of developers, major developers that pulled right from the console. EA only released, I think it was like 3 or 4 titles on the Wii U, Ubisoft released like 3 or 2. It's going down the same way as the Sega Saturn did. Here's what I think the Sega Saturn should have done. First of all, instead of releasing it at $399, $400, I would have released it at $349.99. Put like 4 or 5 major ads out that don't cost that much. Put 4 of them out, 4 or 5. Then, here's what I would have done. I would have packaged Daytona USA and Virtual Fighter with the console with 2 controllers for $349.99. There you go. Well, technically take that back. Package one of them with the console for $349.99. You want 2 controllers and 2 games, $399.99. At the end of 1 month, if it doesn't sell really well, I would have taken that price down from $349.99 to $100 down to $249.99. I guarantee it would have sold more. In fact, if I was to make it a theoretical thing and say it for real, I guarantee you North America would have sold about 4 to 5 million more consoles than what it sold. And it would last longer. It's considered a commercial failure, especially for the North American market. Also for the Japanese market. But when it comes to great titles like this, like Nights into Dreams, the Sonic Jam Collection, Panzer Dragoon 1, 2, and Saga, which is one of the most expensive Sega Saturn games ever created. Mega Man 8, which is also another one. It's like $250-something in North America. Then you have Smups. All your 2D shooters. Fucking amazing. You have your rail shooters, Virtual Cop, House of the Dead. Fucking amazing games released on this console. Eventually, sometime in a little bit, I am going to do a video where I'm actually going to show you gameplay off the console. I'm going to go through the console menu, show you everything about the console. Because I believe that the viewer, which is you, should know everything about this console. I've covered major points about this console. Almost every single major point about it. Also, I didn't major certain points though. You could actually put a gun in here and have the arcade of the home feeling. You could put a light gun in the controller port, like Virtual Cop, House of the Dead, games like that. You could have the arcade in the comfort of your own home, especially Marvel vs. Capcom, Virtual Fighter, Street Fighter, hack and slash games, and even 2D shooters. So you literally have the arcade in the comfort of your own home. Even Daytona USA. Going back to Daytona USA and Virtual Fighter. These are both arcade ports made for the Saturn. Now, they have an updated version of Daytona USA released on the Dreamcast, and they have Virtual Fighter 3 released on the Dreamcast, which I still have to say the best one is the Saturn version. To me, it is the best version. My favorite out of all 4 of these is probably Daytona USA, because I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite games, and now I own it. It's a great game to own. Such a fantastic game. I will be doing separate reviews on all the stuff that I have, the 2 controllers, all 4 of these games. This is just unveiling, I guess you could say, a review of the console. One major flaw I will say about the console is probably the memory, but not just the memory, but why did they even put a second processor in it to begin with? It makes you think that. Why did they do that? And here's the reason why. Sony PlayStation was literally so much more powerful than this console. So they said, you know what? We're going to put a second processor in it. That's just the main processor. That's not the only thing that sucked. But also the memory card unit, they have a game called The King of Fighters 99. It uses a 1 megabyte memory card used for this. Seriously? You have to have different cards for different games? That's insane. That's the reason why they made something called the Action Replay 1 to 4 cart, which means it can have what means it can play games from 1 megabyte to 4 megabytes, and that's probably more than like 400 titles in Japan. Really, right there. That's like more than like 400 games. Such a fantastic little thing. You could actually go online and buy it right now for like $30 on eBay. That's just used. I think brand new, I think is like $80. Less than that, maybe like 60, 70. I'm not entirely sure. I think go back on there and look. But such a great game, King of Fighters is. One of my all-time favorites from SNK. I believe I've covered every single major point into this console. So you know what? And now it's time to hook it up. And if anybody likes to ask, I like using the Jelly Bean controller instead of the original controller. It makes it feel really well and really good. Okay, so now we're going to turn your attention to the TV. Yeah, I got a box TV. So what? Deal with it. You come up to the menu. We're going to set the date, which is November the 2nd. And the time is 10:04. Sega Saturn, trademark 1995 Sega, all rights reserved. The drive is empty. You have a set CDG channel. You have system settings. You have high controls, skip forward, play, pause, skip backwards, repeat, stop, advanced controls. You have adjust vocals, program sequence, adjust sound, shuffle tracks, show time elapse, scan intros, clear all settings, repeat A/B cancel. Go back to the basic controls. Let's go to the system settings. The version of this console is NTSC 4 version 1.00A. So this is literally one of the first consoles released. We have the clock. We have the language. We have other settings. We have enable button labels, stereo. You can actually play mono and stereo on this. And enable, disable, sound effects. You have memory manager. Clear system memory. You only have 461 blocks. Like I said, on this one, though, the actual memory on the system does not work anymore. And so we're going to go ahead. We're going to pop in Daytona, USA. Start application. Cruise Produced by Sega under license from Sega Enterprises. Daytona USA. Options. We're gonna do normal.
Please select a race winner. Please choose manual or automatic transmission. Gentlemen, start your engine. Three, two, one, go!
Not a very good start. Yeah, I'm not gonna make it. You know. Yeah, I lost. I got.
Congratulations, you placed first.
Game over. I raced first.
Now, list your name, the other champion.
And that right there is Daytona USA, as you guys saw. I'm just going to go through the two launch titles for the system, that's all. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to try out Virtual Fighter Remix. So I'm glad I picked this console up for these two main titles right here because I absolutely love them. Produced by Sega under license from Sega Enterprises. Patience, Grasshopper. Patience, Grasshopper.
Fight one. Ready, go! Ring out.
Really?
Fight two. Ready, go! Ring out. Fight 3. Ready, go. KO. Fight 1. Ready, go. KO. Fight 2. Ready, go. KO.
They just locked the game up, so. There we go. I'll do one more fight for you guys. Let's go to the T. You can actually have different pad controls in this game too. Patience, grasshopper.
Fight 1. Ready, go. KO. Fight 2. Ready, go. KO.
Patience, grasshopper. Guess I'll just do one more fight and then there it
Fight 1. Ready, go. Ring out. Fight 2. Ready, go. KO.
Alright, just one more. And I'm good.
Fight 1. Ready, go.
Now you guys saw some gameplay footage. Now that you saw gameplay footage of the Sega Saturn. Okay. So, Sega Saturn console. Very, very well made. In fact, just right behind me. Very, very well made. Constructed gaming console. One of the best ever gaming consoles that you would ever want to have. Especially if you're into fighters, RPGs. Platformers are okay. And 2D shooters. And Japanese titles. There are a bunch of titles released for this console that are in Japanese. In fact, I believe in total there were like 600-700 titles released around for the console. So there were like almost 700 titles released in Japan. And only 200 something titles released in North America. Well, including these two, which were North American. Some great Sega titles. The major flaw about this console now is, one, it can't go back online anymore. Which only had a few games for it to go online with. I think it was Duke Nukem 3D, which was a really good first-person shooter at the time. Saturn Bomberman, I believe. Daytona USA. I'm not sure if Virtual Fighter did or not. I actually have to check back on that. But overall, just a fantastic video game console. I like the small of it, for some reason. I like the small of it. Don't judge me. The other thing is I like its controller. Love the controller of the console. Very, very good. Also, I didn't get to show you that I could play CDs, unfortunately. And that's okay, because it can. So literally, this thing could play movies, CDs, and games, but you have to have a little card in order to play the movies in the back. And that's okay. So it can play video CDs, which is a movie. Which, in fact, I'm actually going to show you online. Right now, I'm actually going to go online. Give me 1 second. It's a type of disc that can play a movie off of it. I wonder when it was released. Um, I'm actually looking to see if I can find video CD movies. Let's go to Disney because I like Disney movies. Um, Now you can go on eBay and look up the video CD card for the Sega Saturn. And those things are kind of expensive. Yeah, they're like close to like 150, more almost close to 210. So they're extremely expensive. And I was telling you about the action replay. It is new for like $37. I know you guys can't see that too well, so I'm gonna turn the brightness down on it. There you go. It is $36.95. Take it back. Here we are. There you go. Now you guys can see it. Turn it this way. See if you guys can really see it. $36.95. It is. This one I'm gonna have to get soon. But overall, it's a fantastic video game console. And this actually concludes the 1 hour mark for the Sega Saturn. And just to go back over the games, well, the 1 hour mark is at 10:30, but we're just gonna go back over the games. 2 launch titles: Daytona USA and Virtual Fighter Remix. And then you have the Sega Saturn Madden 97. And then you have NASCAR 98 for the Sega Saturn. Produced by or under license from Sega Enterprises Ltd. Trademark of Sega. That, and then we have the actual booklet, which we didn't really get to look at yet. The arcade smash hit. And this game is only 1 player. So the Championship Edition is, I believe, up to 2. I was just looking at certain things. But Sega Saturn, really, really great gaming console. Just expert game. Also on the back of this thing, it says NBA Action, Pebble Beach Golf Links, NHL All-Star Hockey, and Worldwide Soccer. Look for these titles on Sega Saturn. And this concludes the 1 hour Sega Saturn video. Thank you people so much for tuning in for this, and I hope to see you guys really soon. Thank you.